Welcome back to the Act Two Podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
This is Act Two. Sorry, I'm distracted because Josh threw me for a loop.
Yes.
And I'm here recording the Act Two Podcast.
I said, Tasha, open this email and read it. And then she started to read it, and then I hit record. And I think she wants to know what the email says. Yeah, we're back. This is the week. This is the week after Thanksgiving that this is coming out. And I was just telling Tasha that we're recording this Thanksgiving week, and I've hit that button, where your brain starts to slide out a little bit.
Yeah, I want that button. That button is covered for me right now. I'm not allowed to push it yet.
Well, can I just tell you, I'm going to uncover that button. And I actually have it. Wait, I think I just messed up our entire intro. I was just going to jump in and go into like a this week
jump
in writing.
in.
All right.
Who cares? It's Thanksgiving.
Who cares? It's post Thanksgiving. We're in the holiday zone right now. This is actually some of the most exciting times to be a writer because
it is.
Things shut down, and if you're working on a spec, like now is the time to do it. And it feels so good because so many people stop writing, and so many people like Hollywood just shuts down. So now this is like a great time to do stuff. But what I was going to say to you is I turned in a script to this producer yesterday. I was supposed to do it last week, but I missed it. I turned it in yesterday, and I was like, yes, I'm going in holiday mode. And then you know what happened? He wrote me this morning, Tasha, one day later, and he said, I read the script. I think it's really good, but I have some first act stuff that I want to go over again. You around? I said,
no.
Yup.
Seriously? The one person in Hollywood working? Actually, I have a meeting tomorrow. Who am I talking about?
Yeah, there you go. So the button is still, so I'm still here, but that's all. That's all.
Dang, I'm sorry. / happy for you?
No, this is great. It's awesome. I'd rather do that than not do it.
Do you think that holidays, like I feel like in before times, we wouldn't have freaking meetings right now. We wouldn't have shit. He wouldn't be calling you, but because we have Zoom, I feel like people, because they don't have to drive anywhere, it's super easy to just hop on a thing. You're already at home because it's the holiday. They're more willing to work. Like, I don't remember having a meeting on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving before.
No, I think I agree because I'm still, this is why I'm like programmed into thinking, okay, life is kind of winding down now. It's like the day before Thanksgiving. We're good. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Things have changed. Now we're just accessible at all times.
No, I don't like it.
No.
I got to put my foot down.
Hi, I'm canceling this meeting I called. It's off.
Well, today we are talking about this week's in writings that have been going on. Because it's the holiday, we thought we'd take it a little easy with our topics. But these aren't easy topics. These are great topics, and I'm excited to talk about them. We're also going to answer some listener questions.
Yeah, this is the first time we've done this.
No, it is not.
I mean, where we've devoted an entire episode to listener questions.
This is true.
So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. So the reason why I'm in this weird headspace is because I just had a pitch like seconds before we hit record. And that's This Week in Writing. So a couple things interesting happened on this pitch, in this pitch meeting. One was the executive, who is super bright, and I love her. But she was bumping on like the big finale that we have for our villain in season 1. And it's a totally bonkers ending because it's a bonkers show. And she's like, I'm bumping on it, and I don't have a solution for you. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't think it's right. And I was like, okay. I can't do anything with that.
Always the best.
Right? Like, I can't do it. Yeah, and like, so just to give some context for where we are in this pitch, me and this other writer have put together this pitch. This was our first time after brainstorming and doing all of our crazy stuff all on our own that we were pitching it to someone else, and they could easily have said, this is terrible, we hate it, goodbye. Or, hey, this is great, let's invest in this. They decided to, yes, let's invest in this. So the next meeting we have is in a week from now. We're going to pitch to like all of the investors at this production company who are going to decide, yes, I like this, or B, I don't like this, and C, here's some notes. I do love it. Let's go out into the town with it. So there's 3 options we have next week. So
Boom.
This week was to just get notes from the sort of circle of trust, the production executives who I've been working with. And one of these notes was, I don't like what your villain does at the end of season 1, and I don't have not only do I not have a solution for what should happen, which is fine, you don't always need a solution, but I don't know why it's not working.
Wow.
I was like, that is what I don't know what to do with, is if you don't know why it's not working, I can't fix the problem. So I said, okay, executive, let me just poke at that for a second. And she was like, feel free, go ahead. I know I don't have an answer, so like, please, let's talk about it. So she's really open to me pushing back on the note, which I think is important to mention, because oftentimes we'll get a note like that and we'll be like, okay, I'll figure it out myself.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have to if it's something like this. You really have to make the executive do their job and express to you why it's not working. And as the more we talked about it and the more other executives started to chime in about what their problems were with the pitch, we started to realize that we didn't set up the character's journey enough in the beginning, so that the end, the crazy bonkers ending we give for him, just feels bonkers. It doesn't feel character motivated. It doesn't feel like a satisfying ending. So I think that's what she ended up bumping on.
Wow. And did you lead her there to get her to say, okay, you know what? This is why this ending doesn't work for me. It's because he's not fleshed out in the beginning.
Interestingly, the other executive, it took him 15 minutes to get there because he was talking about other things, but he eventually realized himself that the reason why this other executive was having an issue was because the character wasn't set up enough at the top, because his notes were around having questions about this villain. And what is his story again? Who is he when we first meet him? Why is he like this when we first meet him? And he's like, actually, yes, I think the reason why I'm having all these questions is the same reason this other executive doesn't like your ending. So just, front load it, justify it up front.
Wow. Those are good executives, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think they did a really great job. Yeah, they had some really awesome things to say that will make it much stronger. And one of them was British, so everything he said sounded absolutely articulate and genius. And more British executives.
So you can sound like,
waving that flag.
Okay, yeah. All right. So that was it. Then you figured it out. And
that was it. Yeah. And I also pitched them, as they were talking, a new idea came to me about how to make the ending work. Mm-hmm. And it was even a more bonkers idea, but I was like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if they like this. And I took a risk and I pitched it to them, because another part of me was like, no, just hold it back and just try it in the pitch.
Yeah.
And because you're scared to pitch them an idea and everyone's like, oh, that's stupid, Tasha. So you'd rather kind of, to preserve yourself and your ego, like, I'm going to put it in the pitch and see if they like it. But I just pitched it to them and they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. It was really... It's a ridiculous reaction that I did not expect. So we're putting it in the pitch.
So next week, or on the next podcast, we're going to get an update that you guys have taken this out. It is sold, and then you can tell us more about it.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
Okay.
I this is like a really bad This Week in Writing. It's not even a This Week in Writing. I just want to say something.
I love these because they actually are.
It's about the new Avatar trailer.
Go on.
So I haven't seen Avatar yet.
It premiered, by the way, during the Niners game, which I was watching. Therefore, I saw it first.
That's crazy. It just out of nowhere. Like, it probably caught you off guard. You're like, whoa, Avatar trailer?
What's weird is what I hate, sorry, I'm taking over your This Week in Writing, but I hate in this day and age, we like have trailers for trailers, because there was a trailer at the beginning of the Niners game that's like, look out for the last Avatar trailer to come out playing during Monday Night Football. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's a trailer for the trailer?
Yeah. You know what I hate is that they're like trailer during Monday Night Football, but then it drops on the internet before the trailer hits Monday Night Football. I'm not saying that's what happened. No. But that's what happens with like the Super Bowl often, where the people, the companies just upload their trailers, and it's like, or their commercials.
hate
You're like,
that.
what the fuck? Anyway,
No. Yeah.
so what struck me about the there's a lot of issues with the camera in Avatar 2. Apparently, I just read this article that was like a Fox exec was mad that it's too long. It's like 2.5
Yeah.
hours. Something with James Cameron told him to F off, all these things. But
Told him to F off, and we'll just cut the credits out of the movie, and then
yeah, totally. That's what he did. But the trailer, and this is why I love James Cameron, is because it looked so character-based and action. It's like about family, it seems like, and protecting your family and relocating and all. And I'm so fucking excited for Avatar. I'm going to go see it. I was on the
Yeah.
fence. Now I'm all in.
I was on the fence too from our last episode. I think we talked about this, and I was like, meh, I don't
Yeah.
care, but I guess I'll go see it. And then I texted you after watching it, and I was like, not only am I seeing this, I am seeing it in 3D. However James Cameron wants to present it to me, that's how I'm going to go.
Wow,
go
you are
witness
doing
this.
3D. You're going to go for it.
I mean, that's how, yes. This is an experience.
Okay.
It's not just a movie.
It's a movie going
But
experience.
interestingly, so if you've ever gotten this note, which I feel like almost all of us get this note at least once
Yeah.
/ a million times, is that when people say, I didn't buy into your script or I wasn't invested in your story until this happened. Have you ever gotten that note before?
Yes.
Like, it wasn't until page 20 where I was like really into it.
Yes.
First off, I hate that note.
Me too.
But second off, that's how I felt about watching this trailer. I was like, okay, it's pretty, it's family, whatever. I'm not invested in this family because I don't know who they are. So, okay, but it's sweet, whatever. Oh, cool. Look, there's like water animals and that sounds fun. But then they started showing the soldiers coming in and like
Yeah.
destroying these villages. And I was like, oh, that's what this movie is about. That's something I can get invested in because I want these families to survive and to fight back. It's this underdog story. And you definitely want these villainous soldiers who are just burning everything to the ground to perish. And now I'm invested in the fight for freedom.
Yeah. Braveheart.
Braveheart.
Yeah, I think I agree. I do just want to see fighting. I hate to say it, but like I want to see like James Cameron action sequences because he is the freaking master. I hope he doesn't spend too much time underwater. Just putzing around with the whales and shit.
He will.
I know he will because he loves water,
Loves water.
which is crazy to me because they're sharks. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. My other this week in writing is I am working on a revision of a movie right now, and there's a tight deadline. A, because of holidays. B, because director availability. C, because when you're told to revise something, technically in your contract, you only have like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is that you agreed upon. And so there's all these factors, and you know, as writers, we're just like, look, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna let the characters tell me where it's going, right? Like we want to live in it. We don't want to like deliver it. So it just struck me that in professional screenwriting, you do have to kind of shift your brain and start developing this skill of scheduling your writing. And I kind of learned this in college. Like our professor tried to teach us how to schedule out your outlines so that we would get done in a certain time. And I resisted it. But now it's become extremely key to being able to work with anyone because a producer will always say, when do you think you can get me the script? And you can't just say, like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I always underestimate myself because I want to sound like you don't have to wait very long. Don't worry. I will get it to you soon. But then I always paint myself in a hole when I do that because it usually takes longer than I think it will. So what I have done for this current job is I've outlined my script and I've attached scene numbers to each of the scenes. And then I have written next to it what date I'm going to write that scene. And I'm like, okay, given these number of scenes, they're not super heavy lifting, so I could probably do like 3 or 4 scenes. We'll say 3 just to be safe. If I do 4, that's a bonus. We'll say 3 scenes I can do on November 30th. And then these 4 scenes I can do on the next day. I can really only do this one scene probably in one day. A, because of the meetings I have. B, because it's so heavy lifting. So like I just schedule myself out so that when I look at this now, I can report back to my producer and say, literally, I will have a draft to you by this date. And I will give myself a couple, like a day, 2 days max of wiggle room at the end of it, just in case I get held up by something or family events happen. But at least I know now what to look forward to. So I would say my This Week in Writing is develop this skill for yourself. Don't resist it, because it's absolutely vital for productions to continue, right? Like if you ever get hired to write on a production, you literally have to churn out pages at a very specific time in order for the production to work. So develop this skill.
I completely agree. I recently started, because I had a pretty extensive outline, not extensive, but I had like in this recent script that I was writing, basically numbered 1, 2, 3, and under each number were the scenes and what was going to happen. And it was an action movie. And when I kind of painted myself in a corner for a scene that was really, really difficult for me to write, I actually didn't write the scene. I just put in what needed to happen. And then I moved on to a scene that I knew I could write because I was being held up. And it was a game changer for me because it just helped me keep going. And then you kind of figure out, moving forward, you're like, oh, now I know what this previous scene needs to be because these things need to connect. And oh man,
I am such a proponent of outlines nowadays.
I kind of am too. Even if it's a sentence of like, it doesn't have to be beat for beat. Of course, that's like the more the merrier, but
more the merrier.
But even if you can get to a place where it's like Tasha and Josh go to the store, they get robbed. Like, without having like the specifics of how it happens, it's just good to have. And you're like, okay, I know this needs to happen. I know this needs to happen. It helps so much.
Even on top of that, so like I've been noticing in TV as we turn in outlines, part of me is like, it's just an outline. It's fine if this scene isn't perfect, or it's fine if this scene doesn't exactly give what the character is going to be doing. But I find myself actually being like, well, why not just do the work here so that when I go to script, the script moves really, really fast. Mm-hmm. So like, yes, Tasha and Josh rob a liquor store, but is it also like Tasha and Josh rob a liquor store, Tasha ends up in tears, guilty for having robbed the liquor store, and Josh is mad that Tasha's guilty, and now the relationship is on the rocks. Like, do I need to know the character arc for that scene so I can at least write to it when I get there? That becomes really important to me too. So it's funny because we talk about this every now and again on this podcast. How Josh, when you and I started, we were like, fuck outlines. We don't need to do outlines. When we were assistants, we were just like, that's just not our process. And then you start to realize not only does it have to be your process, because an outline is a step that you can get paid for, but it really, really helps you in the writing, because as we're talking about schedules and stuff, you have to deliver a script within a certain amount of time. If you're just fucking around in that script and you're finding yourself, which is an okay method, but it more than likely will get you into trouble in terms of delivering your script on time.
I agree. Although I wish I didn't have to outline.
I know.
Yep. Anyway,
I mean, the just do it on spec, like the freedom of a spec to just like play with it and move around and. Yeah. But if you're trying to write a spec for a contest, you're trying to write a spec to get it to a manager quickly, it may not be the fuck around time. It may be, I need to outline this thing so I can get it done by March so that I can give it to a manager by April. It helps to set deadlines for yourself like that. And we're actually going to talk, I'm really excited because we're going to talk about this in our New Year's goal episode. Yeah. And it's like my favorite episode that we do.
Me too. There's nothing I love more than a new year. I say this every year. I talk to you about this all the time, but like you hit the button, the reset button, you have a clean slate. It's like, all right, what do I want to accomplish in this year? Here are 12 more months. I'm good. Yeah. Let's go. And by the way, we still have some time left in this year. So
we do.
All right.
Jumping ahead. All right. Recently, I have had to, how do I say? Recently, I've been rewritten by a lot of people. And it has caused me to reflect upon myself and myself as a writer. And also leading a room where you are rewriting your writers also causes you to reflect and And the reflection that I am talking about is knowing your flaws as a writer and acknowledging that you have blind spots and that's okay. Because what I've learned in these TV rooms is that writers know that you have a blind spot. They know that you're not good at action sequences, or they know that you're not good at, let's say, like knowing world building stuff. Like that's just not your thing. I can do character all day long, but I can't do world building stuff. And that's fine. Like that's just not your strength, and they accept that. And that's why a writer's room is so great, is because you may not have a world building guy in that person, but you hire another person who's great at world building, and you build this great team that can conquer everything, right? So I think it becomes important to know your flaws as a writer, and I'm learning them as I go. And one of them seems to be that I'm very vague. I love the slow burn.
You do?
So hard. I do.
Interesting.
And I remember when I was writing my script, The Woman, years ago, that I've broken down on this podcast before, because it was like a 5-year process before selling it.
Yeah.
And then it never went anywhere at Amazon. And we're trying again. So like it's an ongoing process. But like what I feel like is my best script that I've written, I remember getting notes from my manager / producer on it, who was like, I don't understand this character. I'm like, well, it's there on the page. She's like, no, it's not. I don't understand what she's doing, and I don't understand why she's doing it. And for me, it's all there. And it's in like subtle looks. It's in the way she like is, in her like nuanced way that she talks to this other person in this scene. It's all nuance. And she's like, that's fine, but I don't get it. And if I don't get it, the nuance is completely pointless and lost. So I had to learn to be a little bit more on the nose with scenes, as well as with like the choices I'm making within the scenes, and what I'm having my characters doing, but also in dialogue. And I don't know. My only this week in writing is that I've acknowledged that this is a flaw of mine, and I've verbalized it to other writers in my writer's room, and I've told them, if you find that I am being too much of a slow burn person and we need to know more stuff here, please tell me, because I'm not going to catch it myself. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and to be okay with it, not be insecure.
I would disagree with everyone. I don't think there are any flaws. And they're all wrong.
I wonder, do you think you have a flaw in writing? Like, do you have a blind spot?
Yeah, I've got a bunch. I think
What is it?
I'm the exact opposite of the slow burn. I'm like, hey, we're about to fucking launch out of this cannon at about 1,000,000 miles per hour. and whenever I start writing something, I always think to myself, like I always think of like, okay, what's the beginning, the middle, and the end? And then I lock that in, and then I think to myself, okay, how can I make the end the midpoint? And then that like makes me change like the way I think about the movie, because usually, you're working to something at the end of a movie, obviously, like the change. But in my brain, I'm like, that's so obvious that what if it's the midpoint? Now what happens after the midpoint? But what that ends up doing sometimes, a lot of times, is like, so many times people have been like, this moves way too fast. This just is moving too fast. But in my brain, I think to myself, I like the pace of it. I should be better at cramming information in this space, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
That's just one of many blind spots, by the way.
So you and I would make like a superhero writing team. I would slow us down and you would speed us up.
Oh, yeah. I'd be like, hey, in the first 10 pages, the world's falling apart. You're going to be like, no. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that's just, I definitely have some blind spots.
All right, that's it. Those are my this week's in writings. I'm a failure.
Well, it's a good podcast. Are we doing this?
Let's do it.
Listener questions?
Listener questions.
All right, we're not saying the names of the listeners because I haven't told any of them that we're answering these. So we have to.
But they're such good questions. We have to.
Okay, but we just can't say who has said it.
Yes, of course.
And,
definitely.
And we have to take out the specifics that might give it away.
Naturally.
Okay, because we're thoughtful. Do you want to read the first one, or do you want me to? Because you've studied it now for about 10 to 15 minutes.
I'll do it. I've studied it. You've interrupted me with this podcast and my studying, but I will do it. Okay. This question is about following up on meetings that you have with producers and studio execs. And it's a really great question because this writer is talking about some specifics in their own life where it's not just I had a general meeting and then what do I do now, which we have answered on this podcast. Go back to those episodes. But this is a bit more nuanced where she's saying like she has an agent, she has a manager, and she's actually been working. She has a few rewrite projects and some polishes that she's been doing, some really cool stuff going on in her career. And it sounds awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But she is finding that, like, let's say she, pitched to an exec or had a general with an exec, and then a lot of time has gone by and she's done new stuff. Like, she's gotten new jobs. The last time she met that executive, maybe she hadn't done anything yet. She hadn't gotten hired on any job yet. Now she has. And maybe something's in production now. Like, how do you reach back out to these executives without sounding like, hi, I'm super desperate for a job. Look at me. And she's like, I've sent emails to them when I've seen their name in the news, which is a really great idea. If there's ever anything on Deadline or Variety that says like, hey, this person has just got a movie in production, definitely like send them a congratulations email. That's really great for you to kind of be in their inbox and for them to see your name. But what do you do beyond that? Because oftentimes you just get a thanks or maybe no acknowledgement at all. This person says that they've also emailed back, like the production executive said, hey, send me a take on this thing. And, we have an actress attached and we'd be really excited for you to come up with a take. And she did email a take and nothing happened. So what do you do when you kind of face these scenarios? And first of all, I will say coming up with a take and emailing it is tricky territory on its own. Maybe that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard writers do it and they get a job. So I want to put that out there. But often that take goes into nowhere. And actually, I think, didn't Zach
Balin
come in? He talked about how he emailed a producer, one of our guests most recently who wrote King Richard, said that King Richard came from him emailing a take to the executive after talking about it at drinks. But usually it could just end up in the trash, or they take that email and they just give it to someone else, another writer they're working on, and suddenly your ideas have been taken. It's usually better to say, hey, I've come up with a take, like let's hop on the phone and I'll give it to you. But anyways, back to the question at hand. Do you want to take it? Take it. You take it. Both of us take it.
Let's both of us. Well, I will just say, and I think this person acknowledged this in the email, like now with the holidays, this is like one of the greatest times to just randomly reach out to any exec that you've ever talked to, anybody, in my opinion, even if you have nothing to say, because it allows for the, hey, happy holidays, whatever. Like you can just always sculpt an email into, I'm reaching out to say happy holidays, but actually while I'm reaching out is just to tell you, I have a few things going on. I'd love to connect in the new year. This is what I'm doing. Boom, 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 boom. Have a great holiday. It's blah, blah, blah. Like that. This is another reason why I love the holidays, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's a great idea.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. And I think something you can do in that scenario, if you haven't talked to this producer in a while, I would say if you met with them a few weeks ago, or even like 2 months ago, maybe not. But like if you reach out and say, hey, happy holidays. I just wanted to reconnect and would love to grab coffee in the new year. That's actually kind of when I would send the email, is in the new year. I hope you had a great holiday. Would love to grab a coffee and catch up. A lot's been going on. Would love to hear what's new at such and such company.
Yeah. Because
if you give them an action thing to do, like have coffee or get a drink, something sort of non-committal, then that's an action step they can take.
I did this a couple months ago because I wanted an exec to read a script that had come and gone out of my life, and I wrote him, and it was, I think I talked about this before, it was about the Packers. I checked in with them and I was like, hey, hope you're well. The Packers suck. Let's connect or let's find some time to get together. And he was like, all right, let's get together. And so I saw him, and it was like the most transactional meeting, but in the best way possible, because we both knew that we were sitting down because we both wanted to like exchange information. And it was kind of like, all right, so I have like 15, 20 minutes. What do we think about the Packers? Boom, 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 Packers. All right, what are you working on? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, yeah, send it to me. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, great. And then we were like, I was
those
like,
are
this
the best meetings.
Oh my God, it was amazing because it just cut through all the shit. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can, reaching out. I mean, this person covered it. Like reaching out, that's what I'll do. If I see someone's name, I still do, no matter what. Even if I don't want to work with someone, if I just want to congratulate someone, it's just always a nice way to connect. But New Year, grab some coffee, and I think the other thing is don't be shy or afraid to say, let's grab coffee in the new year. Let's connect.
Yeah. Yeah, because from their perspective, they're part of their job, whether they like it or not, is to network and to know writers, up and coming writers. And what they should be thinking is, oh, she's got new stuff going on. That's really cool. That's a writer I should maybe pay attention to. It's someone who might be writing the next spec that I need to buy. And if I build a relationship with her, she'll send that spec to me. Yeah. Or if I have a project I need an unexpected writer on, or maybe a writer who's cheaper but really great. Like I can be the hero at my company and like say, I've been meeting with this writer. I just had coffee with her and she's super awesome. Let me plug her in at this company. So like it's in their best interest to meet with you as well. So when you do ask for coffee, do know that's part of their job as well. You're not being too much of a burden to ask for that. But I do think it's important to do that kind of action step, right? Like, let's meet, would love to meet for coffee to reconnect. And there's a few things going on in my world that I would love to run by you, which is a really great way of doing it, by the way. If you have log lines or even better, like outlines or pitches or story ideas that you think would be great for their company, it's a really great way to be like, I have some things that I've been thinking about for you, but would love to also hear what you're up to. It's been a while. Can I buy you coffee? You'll probably get rescheduled a few times, but do it. Like that's the way to do it.
Rescheduled 25 times.
100%. Another thing that this writer does, which is a great idea, which I've never thought of, but is fantastic, is she has set up Google alerts for producers that she loves and wants to work with. And so she'll just get an email now whenever their name is in the trades, and she's able to now say like, oh, I saw this in the news, like congratulations on this, which is great. That's a really great thing to do. But yeah, I think there is a fear of being neurotic, right? If you're like constantly sending emails to these people. And I think this is a really tough part of our business, is that it's the long game, right? So yes, you've met with that producer maybe 5 months ago. If nothing's come of it already, like that's normal. It has taken me sometimes years, like 5 years, for example, for a relationship I made to pay off and become a job. So that's not a good thing. That's not hopeful, because you want to be really active in your career, and that's the right instinct. So these are ways to be active without seeming neurotic to the person. Because I've definitely gotten emails from actors who feel very neurotic. And it kind of puts me off, because it seems like they are just like salespeople rather than real people. So like I've gotten emails often from actors I've met who've like sent me trailers of things that they're in, or like commercials that they're in, and been like, hi, happy holidays. Here's a bullet pointed list of all the things I've done this year. And I'm like, okay, delete. But if this person was like, hey, would love to reconnect and get coffee and like hear about what's been going on, I'm like, oh, okay, this person wants a genuine connection. That's great.
Yeah.
So I think it's doing that. And we've talked about on this podcast as well of every few months reaching back out to producers to do this, to say, hey, let's get coffee. Hey, I would love to hear what's up. And it's literally every few months. I would say, like 5 months is sort of what I would suggest before you reach back out to someone to ask for coffee again.
The last thing I want to say about this, which might have already been said, but I'm just going to say it one more time, is have something specific in mind if you're reaching out to a producer. It's very great. I've been in a zone where you're like, holy shit, Tasha's working on this. I just want to be in her orbit. Like, how does that happen? But like, you want to reconnect with someone because they did something cool, but you kind of have to be on the same page about, or not on the same page, but you have to know why you're asking someone to grab coffee, as opposed to just let's shoot the shit.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
So that's a great point. So when you do go to ask for coffee, and in that email, I would not say, hey, I've been writing on this project and this project and this project. Let's get coffee. It's the email is really more like, hey, happy holidays. I have been, there's been, I'm trying to trying to pitch this in the moment.
Yeah.
There's been a lot going on my side and would love to catch up. I've been thinking of a few ideas that might be really great for your company or for you that I think you'd love. Would love to touch base and see what else you're working on as well. I think that piece is really important. What else are you working on? It's not just me. It's like I want to engage with you and what you're excited about as well. And then when you actually meet, that's when you can actually start saying, oh, I've been up to this and this, because they'll ask. They'll say, oh, hey, what have you been up to since I last saw you? Oh, well, I wrote such and such. No way. That's so cool. Yeah. And, I've really been wanting to write, my next sci-fi thing. And here's my idea for my next sci-fi thing. And they'd be like, oh my God, will you send that to me when you're done with it? So like, that's kind of how the conversation can go. So I don't think you put all that stuff about who you are and what you've been up to in your email. It's really just, hey, you're emailing a friend to reconnect.
I love it. Your friend, you're reconnecting.
Yeah. But to your point, Josh, when you get to that coffee, make sure you have something to talk about. Don't waste their time. You're coming with ideas you have that are great for them. You're coming with stuff I've been working on, jobs I've been getting. And you're also coming with, what are you working on? How can I be of service to you? Is there anything that, I can pitch on, or that you're not going to say that, but, in asking them what they're working on, you're kind of saying, how can I be as a writer in service to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Next question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
This writer wrote us and said that he is going to be pitching on a rewrite, or I'm kind of unclear where he is in the process. It sounds like he's preparing a pitch on a script that already exists at Netflix, and there have been other writers on it. He's like, the script is kind of a mess, and my instinct is this needs a page one rewrite. This is not a good script. And if I came into it, this is what I would do to fix it. I would do a page one rewrite. And I have a plan for it. But his manager, and I think the producers as well, are saying this movie, they want to shoot it next year. But we're in November, so they want to shoot it next year, probably before the writer's strike. And it can't be a page one rewrite. You won't get the job if you go in and pitch a page one rewrite, because that will scare everyone and they will be like, that's not what I want. I just want this script currently in its current place to function as a movie. And it's a great question, because this is unfortunately a big part of what sometimes we have to do. And you can absolutely creatively choose to not take this job. If you think it's a page one rewrite and you stand by that and you're willing to lose this job because you believe it's a page one rewrite, go for it. But you'll probably lose this job if they want to shoot it in the first quarter of next year. So the alternative is to go in and say, not that you hate this script, because that's not productive for anyone. I'm sure they all are kind of worried about this script. If you're going to be from the producer's point of view, what they want to hear from you is, they're scared because this script is terrible. Is it going to work? We think these 3 small things here, and here in the script might make it actually function as a movie. Can you execute those things in a really great way? And can you make this disaster of a movie function? That's all I think they want at this point, is probably for it to just have legs and move, right? So you do have to make that choice. And I'm actually in this position now where I've been asked to come in on a script that I think has been made worse by another writer. And when I was asked the other day, what'd you think of the script? I said, okay, well, here are my good thoughts. I think this part of the movie is so much stronger. This part of the movie is so much stronger. Really great work. In the middle, personally, I think it was absolutely horrendous and boring and the movie's ruined. But what I said was, I think that there was, maybe just too many scenes of exposition right after each other. So how can you kind of couch it in a way that is productive and also objective? So saying, oh my God, the characters are so terrible through Act 2 is not helpful. That doesn't point to a solution. But saying, I think there are scene after scene of exposition, and I think we really need to step those out and have action within that so the scenes don't feel as boring or as expositional. That's a solution. Now you're talking the producer's language and they're like, oh, okay, he's going to go into that scene and he's going to make it have action so that it's a more watchable scene. Great. So it's pitching on things like that. And again, you do have to then make a choice of, I'm going to go in and surgically change just these three things. But I think what I'm missing is some direction from the producer in this email. I'm curious if this writer has met with the producer to just find out what their issues are, because the manager is hearing it secondhand. So I would, if possible, try to have a conversation with the producer directly to just be like, hey, can you give me a heads up of sort of what's working, what's not? I want to be productive because I know you're going into production very soon. So I want to make sure that my suggestions are helpful rather than destructive, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's kind of how you approach it. That
Yeah.
answer the question fully?
I think so. I think you just have to kind of pull the trigger on whether or not you want to do it or not, and then set the expectations of, I think this is a page one. But I think you explained it perfectly, of like, get a little bit more clarity from the producers of like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? This is a page one rewrite. I don't want to do that. This is going to take too much time unless you do want to do it, and kind of work within those parameters.
Yeah. And I think what's important too is this doesn't sound like this is this writer's original script. It's something that he would be hired on to rewrite. So I think it's a different conversation if this was your baby and you're like, I am not letting my baby go out into the world like this. This is
Right.
a page one rewrite. We need to talk about this. But if you're coming on to be a surgical writer, this is what our job is. It is to be the most helpful now to the producers who are trying to get this movie made. And that helpfulness comes in the form of not saying this entire thing is fucking bad. It's saying, okay, like, what do you feel like is the problem here? Because these are the biggest problem spots. If you can do that, that can be really helpful. Even if you hate the whole thing, what are the biggest things that you feel like can be fixed and worked on?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like the entire character arc is wrong and I need to change it. It's like, is it just this one character relationship that you can maybe tweak throughout? Because again, you want to pitch as if you are being helpful and you are helping push them into production, which is the direction they want to go. And sometimes that means you have to shed some of the stuff that you think is really bad to help them see their vision forward. It's tough. It's tough. I feel like for the job that I'm doing now, that I totally disagree with the entire Act 2. My job is going to be, what do you guys think is wrong with it? Okay, great. You clearly don't think this one scene that I have a huge problem with is wrong, so I'm going to leave it. I'm not even going to touch it because you like this scene the way it is, and it's not my job to change this script to what I want.
Wow.
Because it's not in my hands anymore. It's in your hands. And at this point in the process, when we're ready to go into production, I'm kind of a tool for you to get your movie made. So I will go in because you can't write a scene. That's not what your skill set is. So if you want me to change this one scene for you, great, I can do that. So it's all to say, try to really advertise yourself as a surgical writer at that point if you want the job.
I love it. And,
I'm sorry, like that's so hard.
No, yeah, that is hard. And if that didn't make sense, just email us again.
Yeah, I don't know when you're pitching this, but hopefully that's helpful.
Last one, Tasha.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read this one. This is like the most Tasha territory email of all time.
Okay.
Maybe three. All of these may have been actually, but all right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, question for you. I came across a comic that I think would make a great adaptation into film or television. Ooh. One of the comics was written by a very well-established writer. I am an unknown, unrepresented writer, but I am lacking credentials within the industry. I know that Tasha recently, in a recent episode, Tasha noted that she adapted an IP without getting permission, and you were frustrated with that. So my question is, what are the best practices for approaching an owner of IP, be they games, books, comics, etc., to pitch yourself as a writer for the project, be it on spec, shopping agreement, or the like?
I feel like we need to get Steve Desmond on here to talk about this because he's the king of this. Steve, if you're listening, because sometimes you do, let's do this. But yes, I think what this writer is referring to is I talked about a book that I really love that I just wrote on my own as a movie without telling anyone. I didn't get permission from the author. I didn't tell my agents I was writing this. This was sort of just like a fun thing I did. It was like basically fan fiction. The problem with that is that's never going to go anywhere because it's fan fiction. What I would do in that scenario, let's say if I carried this IP in particular through, I would locate the agent of the writer or the writer themselves. They may not have an agent, or they may be so kind of unknown that they have an email somewhere published on their website. It sounds like this is an established writer, so maybe that's not the case. But reaching out to their agent is great. Or if you have reps yourselves, this is what they're there for, to kind of lend you legitimacy and to reach out to that writer's or author's agent and say, hey, like, are the rights available? This is a very normal question to ask. Are the rights available? Don't feel like you are being rude or putting them out or any other maybe insecure things that make you on your head when you ask this question. You can just say, are the rights available? But in that email that you're sending to this writer, if you're able to contact them directly, this is what I did when I ended up getting the job to adapt a book that I really loved. I sent a letter. I sent an email to the author of the book via my agents, who did a lot of digging to locate the author's agent, the author's book agent. So they were like, Tasha, we finally found the author's book agent. Send us your email that you want to send him, and the agent will get that email to the author. So this is how I did it. And in that email, I wrote about, it was basically one page written on a Word document. And it was, here's who I am first.
Yeah.
Meaning like, here's my credentials. And I know this writer said they don't have credentials in the industry, but what are you current? Have you written anything, or are you working in the industry in any way? If not, then maybe just start with, I am a writer. I love this particular genre. I love your book in particular. Here's all the reasons why I love your book and why I think it would make a fantastic adaptation into film or TV. Here's the story that I am drawn to within it that I would really want to tell. Meaning, is it like the mother-daughter story in here is something that I'm so passionate about, that really touched home for me, that I think would move audiences. Like, say things like that of how you would adapt it in that way, and character-wise or world-building-wise, what draws you to their material. And then simply ask at the end, would love to know if your book or your comic is rights are available, and if so, if you'd be willing to speak to me about a shopping agreement. I would love to try to take it out and sell it.
Yeah.
And it really helps if you have a plan. So it may come in this email, it may come in the follow-up conversation that you have, but to say, I have a plan and here's where I'd like to shop it out, it feels like it's the conversation that happens after. But if in your first email, you're like, I would love a shopping agreement to take it out, and I have some producers in mind who I think would be great for it. Do you have producers in mind for real? Because you are going to need a plan. And the way that plan looks is, okay, say the author says, yes, you can have a shopping agreement, which means they're giving you the rights for, say, 6 months is typical, could be 12 months, to kind of use their material officially. So you can then create a pitch off of it, take it out into the world, pitch it to various places, and you legitimately have the author's authorization to do that. So you have the rights to the IP for that short window of time.
Which is a big deal.
And then after 6 months, if you don't, the reason it's called a shopping agreement is after that 6 months, if you don't sell it, then you've shopped it and you have failed. So the rights go back. That means there's no kind of risk to the author.
Yeah.
Is essentially why they would agree to that. And sometimes, and this is why we should have Steve Desmond on, he's never paid for IP. Or for options or anything. He asks for it for free. And the reason why I think he can do that is because he has a very specific plan of how he's going to get this thing sold. And I think that becomes really important for stuff like this, to make the author feel like I'm not just giving it to some random Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to someone who's a professional.
We need to have him on. I will say, if you can secure and lock in the IP, it's very helpful. It's a big deal. Not completely related, but my friend and I, we were trying to get the life rights of somebody, and it was all him. He was the one who was like, he reached out to this person, and it was a process. It was a process of like email, finally turned into phone call, which then turned into, all right, let's meet. And then that meeting, I mean, this took, to be honest, it took years to lock in the life rights of somebody. But granted, that was during COVID time. There was a lot of weird stuff going on in the world, so like some communication fell apart. But the point is now that we have the rights, it's been very easy, not very easy. It's been easier to get meetings, to open up conversation, and my friend had written a script that I kind of helped out with a little bit to try to sell.
Yeah.
So if you can do it, great.
It does make a difference. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was going to say something.
Yeah, go.
Is this the world in which we talked about this the other week, how you write a spec and it is like it can be put into this world of the IP, meaning it is not the story. You're not hijacking it, but if someone with enough, intelligence, they can come on and say, you know what, we can turn this in.
I think that's tougher if it's something like this. Like if it's an old fairy tale that's in the public domain, yes. But if it's something that exists currently from a writer who's alive right now, it does border on plagiarism if you do it that way. So it feels like don't bother doing a spec on something like this. And I also don't think, I could be wrong. I'm sure there are examples where I am about to be proven wrong, but it doesn't also feel like a situation where you write a spec and send it to the author and say, hey, I wrote a spec based on your stuff because I love it so much. And there are many reasons why, one of which is you've never talked to them. You have no idea if the mother-daughter story that you've honed in on is not interesting to them in any way, shape, or form, and they hate it and they don't want to. Like it requires a lot of conversations. Also, has that script gone through many drafts from like your trusted group of writer friends? Is it good? Is it the best it could possibly be? Because essentially sending them a spec of this is exactly how I see your film gives them a lot of opportunities to say no, versus if you just write an email that says, these are the amazing things I would do with your film. That to them is like, ooh, possibility. But if I have a script and I don't like it, it's like, no, I'll find another writer. Thank you very much. So it gives them a chance to say no. So I wouldn't do that either. And this person also asks, should I send a DM because we're living in the age of social media? Or do I reach out to their agents? Do I do it directly? And if I do it directly, do I do it casually? And I feel like very much don't do it casually. It should feel like a very professional email. It can still feel friendly, but I think it should be extremely professional because writers, authors all the time just get fans being like, oh, I want to like make your thing into a movie and it'd be so amazing. And you need to distinguish yourself from those people. And again, have a plan, show that you genuinely work in the industry or are, at least, even if it's not paying your rent, you're still working in the industry, right? You're taking meetings, you're actively pitching, you're doing all these things. So yes, the answer is don't be casual, be professional on that one.
I love it. And so much of this, is about just being specific and specificity in what you want to do. And even like what we were talking about with the general meeting, that's so important, I think, in Hollywood, is always have a very specific ask and plan in place because it's like outline your plan.
Yes, I agree.
We did it. That's it.
I think that's it.
That is it. I know it's it. Because I think
we did a good job. I think these questions were amazing. Keep them coming, you guys.
Yeah, please.
Quote of the day?
Yeah, quote of the day.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. That's not the quote of the day.
Whoa.
All right. Quote of the day. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. Make at least one definite move daily towards your goal. Bruce Lee.
Dude, I love it.
I love it. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at Act2Writers for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram. And don't go on Twitter.
Oh, my God. I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist, music by 414 Bag, which you can find on Spotify.